The scandal of Joe Biden is he actually committed the crimes that they're prosecuting Trump on. While Trump is being harassed for non-crimes, Biden is escaping accountability or trying to escape accountability related to his involvement in what his own Justice Department considered to be, through the Special Counsel, unlawful activity that they decided not to prosecute because he, quote, has no memory. And one of those big issues as it relates to that investigation is getting the audio tapes of his communication or his interviews with the Special Counsel. He interviewed Special Counsel Hur in investigating Biden's illicit mishandling of classified information, including information from his days as a senator. I mean, he had no legal defense for that. These interviews are a big deal because Hur concluded, so he says, that Biden had no memory and no jury's ever going to convict him. And Biden said, oh, no, that's not true. So the transcript was released. We've sued for these records. We want the transcript and any audio or video. And now the issue is about the audio. Now, as I've told you last week, we already are in federal court with a FOIA lawsuit for the audio. The Biden Justice Department has told us, outrageously, that we can't get it because the audio release of it would violate Joe Biden's privacy. His privacy. It's absurd. He's president of the United States. The transcript's been released. He doesn't have a privacy interest here in any stretch of the any measure of the word that would outweigh the public interest in gaining access to this information. He was interviewed by a special counsel of his Justice Department in a criminal investigation of him. But then it got worse because Congress has also been seeking the documents, and so they've subpoenaed Attorney General Garland, and Garland's ignored the subpoena. Now, of course, Congress is asking for a lot more than what Judicial Watch is at least suing in this case for, in addition to the audio. But the audio obviously is something that everyone wants to see because that's going to help confirm whether or not the Justice Department took the right step in declining to prosecute Biden and whether he's fit for the presidency. I mean, two very important issues. And rather than turn the audio over and other records over, Garland got Biden to assert executive privilege over these records, including his audio of the interviews. And in some ways, well, I shouldn't say, in a central way, it was designed to prevent Garland from being found in contempt of Congress for refusing to turn over the information in response to Congress's lawful subpoena. Now, the committee voted him out in contempt, the Judiciary Committee. I'm not sure what the House is going to do. I mean, the challenge for the House is that Garland's contempt, if it's to be prosecuted, would be prosecuted by Garland, right? Or Garland's Justice Department. So you know how that's going to work. And the other thing is that there was a civil avenue that they can pursue via contempt. And we know how that's going to go in terms of time. And I kind of analyzed a little bit of this on Twitter. Let's throw a few of those tweets up. You know, we have 30 years experience fighting these records issues in court at the highest levels of our government, the White House. And I can tell you, and I say we're curious how executive privilege could possibly apply to these tapes, and we're going to probably be litigating the use of this executive privilege, a novel, unprecedented application of it in court. But, you know, let's be clear. They don't want those audio tapes coming out because Biden clearly has something to hide. The willingness of Attorney General Garland to go into contempt suggests that, as I say, there are substantial political issues in the audio tapes. One question that presents itself now is whether the released transcript is fully accurate. Maybe we are wrong to presume that the transcript provides an accurate picture of what went on. And I can tell you, audio sometimes has material in there that isn't picked up at the transcript level. And again, we're the ones doing the heavy lifting in court right now. Now, Heritage Foundation followed up with us. They sued, and CNN and a bunch of other media organizations have also sued. But this issue is joined right now by Judicial Watch in federal court. Currently, the Justice Department is under court order to respond to and defend their reasons to withhold the information in our FOIA case in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be due 2 weeks from now, on May 31st. And in the meantime, Garland's set to join Obama's corrupt Attorney General, Eric Holder, in the history books as being, I guess, one of the two Attorney Generals found in contempt of Congress. And I talked about this a little bit in a video we did summarizing this material earlier this week.
Hey everyone, Joe Biden is so desperate to keep those audio tapes of his special counsel interviews away from you and from Congress that he is asserting executive privilege in a way that's never been done before in American history. And of course, it's also designed to protect Attorney General Garland, who seems so intent on hiding these audio tapes that he's willing to go into contempt of Congress, joining Barack Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder as the only Attorney General who's found in contempt of Congress. I tell you, Judicial Watch is already now in federal court suing for these audio tapes. They have asserted privacy exemptions to hide the records from us. They're trying to protect Joe Biden's privacy. Now, on top of that, now they're asserting executive privilege. We've never seen anything like it before. The tapes must be devastating. Now, Judicial Watch is going to pursue this issue in federal court. Frankly, I think we'll get the audio tapes before Congress does at this rate. But we're here fighting for you, the American people, as Joe Biden tries to cover up his corruption.
You know, I love doing videos like that. You know why? Because so few people go out and talk about these issues in a direct way. And Judicial Watch has got this unique perspective and experience that no one else has. And it drives the left crazy because we've got such a broad reach. So we put these videos out and they go ballistic. And they really go ballistic because they don't know what to say because we know what we're talking about. So of course they just engage in ad hominem attacks. As I said, they get distracted by my looks and the fact that I'm not a lawyer. That's how sad it is. They can't respond specifically to these big issues. And so with your support, we're able to, through this video and our other social media activity, educate Americans that are never going to hear this analysis from the media, even friendly media. They got more constraints than we do in terms of time and the ability to communicate this as substantially as we're able to do. You know, and one thing that hasn't been talked about, and we've talked about it previously here, is that the contempt authority to Congress doesn't and shouldn't rely on the Justice Department to enforce it. That's been the practice in the last, 40 or 50 years. But constitutionally speaking, and goes back to the beginning of our nation's founding, Congress has inherent contempt authority and can enforce it directly. So yes, Congress, if they wanted to, the House could find Garland in contempt and arrest him and keep him imprisoned until the contempt is cured, meaning they get the documents and the audio they want. So that's a test for that Mike Johnson, the Speaker, isn't going to want to have to go through. But that's another option out there. It doesn't have to just have a contempt motion passed by the House and it essentially dies because the contempt is only pursued against Republicans. Peter Navarro's in jail right now for it. They're trying to jail Bannon right now on it. Or pursue a slow civil process through a direct lawsuit. As best I can tell, they haven't even figured out what they're going to do in that regard. And as I noted in the video, we're likely to get the audio prior to Congress. I mean, that's been the case. I referenced Attorney General Holder. He was hiding fast and furious documents. Remember the gun running the Obama gang was engaged in to try to undermine our Second Amendment rights by pretending that America was at the fault for cartel gun violence, when in fact it was the Obama administration that was causing cartel gun violence by allowing the cartels to get guns directly without interference, actually allowing it to happen and traffic. You had essentially Obama's people allowing guns to be trafficked to the cartels, and they saw it was happening, and they could have stopped it, and they didn't. It's fast and furious. But we had gotten a lot of those documents that Congress had sued and found Holder in contempt for before Congress got them in the end. You know, and to be clear, you know, we've looked pretty carefully at these executive privilege issues. As I said, we've been doing this for years and years and years, 30 years. We've got unique experience. So we generally know what executive privilege means. And I've looked at the letter, I've looked at the background, and what it looks like to me is they're just making it up. Executive privilege typically means communications that a president, it's executive privilege or communications usually relates to a president seeking or obtaining advice. So if the president calls up someone in his administration or even outside the administration, I think executive privilege applies to private advisors as well, that communication and what advice he gets typically is protected by executive privilege. And what the government is trying to do here, the Biden regime is trying to do here, is they're trying to put in a bunch of apply FOIA exemptions to Congress, which is inappropriate. Like, for instance, they can withhold material from us under FOIA. Well, you can't do that necessarily to a congressional subpoena. So they're trying to paint these FOIA exemptions with this veneer of executive privilege. It doesn't apply. But what's the privilege of a president being interviewed by special counsel in a criminal investigation? They're saying it would chill further additional investigations of people being unwilling to cooperate. Are they suggesting another president won't cooperate in a criminal investigation because an audio of the interview would get out? Come on. So it's obviously purely political. And they're using the law, misusing the constitutional privileges the president does have to try to protect Joe Biden politically, and obviously his administration from more embarrassment by providing cover to Garland by asserting executive privilege as a way to protect him from being held accountable in court, because the thinking is, well, if he's not cooperating with the subpoena in response to an executive privilege claim, there's no way he can be prosecuted. So what a scheme this is, isn't it? And this is why Judicial Watch's independent lawsuits are so important, because FOIA is what it is. And they have to make FOIA exemption claims. Now, are they going to bring the executive privilege case, executive privilege issue into our FOIA case? I'd like to see how that's going to work. It's going to be difficult for them, I would submit. And the hypocrisy of it as they destroy President Trump's executive privilege prerogatives that he maintained as a former president, raided his home, and they're pretending privacy protects Joe Biden from basic government transparency law, and the Justice Department from being held accountable for how it fairly applies the law. Remember, the scandal of Joe Biden is he actually committed the crimes that they're prosecuting Trump on. Literally the same category of crimes, but unlike Trump, Biden had no legal basis to have the documents, certainly as a senator. And even under the Biden administration's interpretation of the law, he had no reason to have the documents at all as vice president. Yet he isn't being prosecuted because his memory is bad. Who are they fooling? No wonder they don't want this audio to be released. And if his memory is so bad he doesn't deserve prosecution, then frankly we should be talking about the 25th Amendment. And if Garland thinks that his memory's fine, then why isn't he prosecuting Biden and rejecting Hur's conclusion that Biden shouldn't be prosecuted? You can't have his cake and eat it too. I guess you can if you're a left-winger whose chief goal, it seems, as Attorney General is to destroy our Constitution by jailing his political opponents and promoting the destruction of our republic. So Judicial Watch will continue to do our own heavy lifting in court. I don't know what Congress is going to do. It's never going to be enough, I guarantee you. It's progress that there's going to be some accountability for Garland in the form of contempt. But in the end, we want that audio, right? And so we're in a position to try to get it as quickly as can be gotten, given the Biden administration's obstruction. So pray for wisdom and discernment of the courts here in Washington, D.C. for a change, and that the rule of law prevails and we're able to get this information for you, the American people.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.